what's up, Skadoolin? So I promised you a video today about my story. Please, let me see. I started this channel. This channel started by me and my best friend. She actually runs the Facebook page and does helps in research and stuff sometimes, but she's taking care of her family. She's homeschooling because of all the craziness that's going on in the school. She has like kids and stuff, so she's homeschooling them. She's amazing, being an amazing super mom. She's very supportive of me keeping the channel going, and also is very morally supportive, as well as informationally supportive, if that's a word, informationally. Anyway, we started this as a podcast in 2011. Please, I will leave the links in the description. You can listen to them. My goal is by 2021 to get them remastered and put up on SoundCloud, because when we did it, I was living outside the country. I didn't have equipment. I was like, I'm gonna ride it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Okay, whatever. We didn't really give a shit. We just wanted to kind of, it was our catharsis, and we wanted to get out information to people. And we didn't know that we were going to be at it for this long. We were just kind of like living in the moment. So I wish, I had paid more attention to sound and stuff like that at the time, because now I'm going to have to redo and try and fix stuff and make it right and re-put it out. But you can still listen to them on SoundCloud if you want to. We interviewed Sean Stone, Oliver Stone's son. We interviewed Fritz Springmeier. We interviewed Stuart Rhodes. We interviewed Jim Mars before he died. We interviewed Max Egan. Our friend, the late journalist, amazing guy, Liam Sheff, would come on and we'd goof off with him. And it was great. It was great. Anyway, I used to work long-term. I was long-term sub, and I worked between a few schools, maybe about 3 or 4 different schools. I had other schools in between, but mainly 3 or 4 schools. And I worked special ed a long time, like, I don't know, 8 years or so, and to the point where I was like, I might as well become a special ed teacher. Didn't do that. It's another story. But I would hear the parents talk about vaccines causing their children's autism. And I didn't really give a shit. Like, I'm ashamed to admit, like, yeah, I didn't think they were lying, though. I just didn't care because it didn't affect me. And I would hear, like, people, even in Spanish, so you can't even say that they read the Wakefield study, because these people are like, English is not their first language. They don't even know English. They can't even read in English. And they're like, blah, 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 vacunas, autismo? Autismo, sí. ¿En serio? Sí, en serio. No estás jodido contigo. Oh, and I'm like, oh, what? And then I would hear English, people, but a lot of the parents at the time that were talking about that, they didn't even speak English, okay? So I would just be like, okay, like I guess so. And my friend, it happened to be my best friend who started the channel with me, saw it with my own eyes. Her son was like normal, had the MMR, brain swell up, encephalopathy, encephalitis, brain came down, swelling came down, lost his speech, stimming, walking around in circles, nonverbal, all that stuff, just gone. Put her in touch with my cousin, because I knew I had an autistic cousin. Didn't know this is what happened to my cousin, but found out the same thing happened to my cousin. I was like, shut up, Then I had, when we started doing the podcast, we had a friend to reach out to us, who became our friend, a woman who became our friend. Later found out she was paralyzed by the Gardasil vaccine. So I just started doing research, going on blogs, reading books, following doctors, because of the internet, because of social media, doctors actually give lectures to other doctors about the dangers of vaccines, because they're not taught about it in medical school. There's a really wonderful doctor who I follow, I follow Dr. Sherry Tenpenny too, but there's another lady named Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, and her lectures are great, and she's really good at like explaining things to lay people, and she uses a lot of medical literature, and she puts the PMID numbers. You can go on PubMed and you can look up some of the studies she's talking about, and it's cool because she's very she has really great presentations. And she's brilliant. And she was an MD that had an experience with her patients she's a nephrologist. She's an MD, but a nephrologist, a kidney specialist, internal medicine specialist, and her kidneys patients were failing, and she linked it to the H1N1 vaccine, and the doctors wouldn't believe her. And she was like, well, the patients said that, as soon as they got the vaccine, that's when their kidneys start to fail. you know? And then she was just like, you know, she kind of sent her down a rabbit hole of looking outside of what she had been taught in medical school, and she's discovered a lot of medical history that's been buried. A lot of doctors, even since the beginning of the vaccine, they kept medical journals, and which you can find online, by the way, or you can go to the library and get them on microfiche or whatever. But a lot of people kept records, you know, even as back as like the 1700s about what was going on in medicine. And in these medical journals, there are a lot of doctors at that time that are even opposed to vaccination because of the side effects, because of a lot of things that were already happening. So it's just fascinating to see how much history is buried. Another person named Alfred Russel Wallace, who was actually the co-founder of natural selection, y'all. Okay, like Freud. No, not Freud. I'm sure Darwin. Sorry, I know. Darwin, right? Co-founder of natural selection with Darwin. Just completely raced out, right? If I said that name, most of you guys are like, who? Who's this dude? CDC has a page on him talking about him. And at the time, they were called anti-vaccinationists, right? And Gandhi was against vaccination. He writes about it in his book called A Guide to Health and calls it a barbarous practice. So all of these things, you would think that, you know, you see all of this propaganda, you see all of this media talking about how great vaccines were, and nobody dared question it until Jenny McCarthy and Andrew Wakefield came into the picture, which is like, what? Which was funny because hardcore staunch pro-vaxxers told me who Andrew Wakefield was. I had no idea. I was on a blog and I was actually even asking questions. I forgot what I was asking about, and these trolls jumped on and they just started going off of me, and they're like, you just read that study by Andrew Wakefield. And I'm like, who? And they're like, you just want the diseases to come back. I'm like, I do. Like, I didn't even know that I wanted all these things to happen. It was crazy. So then I started looking up what they were yelling me about, and I actually looked at his side of why, you know, his license was revoked, and it's really shady. I'll put all that in the comments if you guys want to look at it too, because just like, you know, some of you guys feel marginalized and you want your story heard, there are two sides to every story, right? I know that's why a lot of you guys are subscribed, because, you know, you see how the media has treated you. You see how that they've, you know, marginalized you and lied about you. So the same thing with Andrew Wakefield, I would say, you know, same thing like what they did to Kavanaugh, they did the same thing to Andrew Wakefield, by the way, okay? It's a very fascinating story. People like to say that, oh, he was debunked and this is it was bullshit. But I would encourage you guys to actually do your own research and look into his side of the story, then compare it to what you're being told by the media, okay? Really riveting. What else? I'm going on a tangent. So I was talking about that. I was talking about, yeah, I mean, long story short, it's just led me down a rabbit hole. And it's like, once you realize how big the lie is about vaccines, you realize, okay, well, what else have they been lying to us about? And this is why they, you know, I think vaccines is a huge one, because it's such a well orchestrated lie. And the way that they are able to keep this lie going is through compartmentalization. So, for instance, you ever heard about that story about the blind man that touched the elephant, and one guy touches the trunk and he thinks it's a snake, another guy touches the tail and he thinks it's a brush, another guy touches the leg and he thinks it's a tree, but it's the same thing, right? So it's like, you know, if you're training doctors that vaccines save lives, you're not teaching them about the ingredients, you're not teaching them that there have been no long-term studies, you're not teaching them that there have been no vaccinated versus unvaccinated studies, you're not teaching them that there are no studies against of the synergistic effects for vaccines, the ingredients, and they already assume that this has been done. They're just going to assume that the people that are higher up are telling them the correct information, even though that they're writing their books and feeding them into curriculum, that the pharmaceutical industries are funding their schools, that they're, you know, and it sucks because a lot of doctors become debt slaves, because by the time they leave medical school, you know, they they are, I don't know, at least maybe $500,000 more in debt, you know? So that sucks. And then, so it's like, even if they want to quit or speak out, they still have to work in order to keep their debts. And then they offer a financial incentive for doctors to give vaccines. Their patients are pediatricians' patients. They have a certain amount of their practice vaccinated. Then they get a certain amount of money. So if you have a lot of, depending on how many patients you have at your practice, from what I've heard, you can earn up to between $750,000 up to $1 million or more per year. If you have a certain amount, you have to have a certain amount of people at your practice vaccinated, and they have to be vaccinated on schedule. So that's another reason why doctors push and bully people into getting vaccinated on time, why they don't want people spreading it out. I don't think that works, but that's another video. But if people want to do that, you know, why not let them spread out the vaccines? So you see, you know, people getting censored. Like I said in my last video, oh my God, my nose is itching so bad. Woo, allergies. Okay, that 500 to 1, that the rate of people that are in the middle are being converted. So I would say that, you know, the small percentage of people that are staunchly anti-vaccine, or, you know, just to be fair, there are people that don't like that word. I'm calling myself that, but though there are people that would say that they're critical of vaccines, or they're pro-vaccine safety, or pro-health freedom activists on this side, and then you have people that are staunchly pro-vaccines on this side that are offended that you even dare question doctors and scientists because they're arrogant and they think that they're gods, and, you know, how dare you question the lords of science. And then you have the majority of people, which is like in the middle, which are kind of like they can go either way, right? So the World Health Organization just had a meeting where they're talking about, they're like, what do we do? Because the people in the middle are being converted to the anti-vaccine side 500 to 1, which is great, you know, which is great for us. But, you know, they have to cheat. They have to do things like manipulate people. In Africa and Pakistan, they're killing children because they're killing they're killing children. The healthcare workers are killing children unwittingly. They're brainwashed to think that they're doing good because they believe that vaccines save lives, but they're going into these countries and vaccinating children, and they're becoming paralyzed or dying. So a lot of the parents found this out and start killing healthcare workers, right? Now they're vaccinating people at gunpoint, right? The Samoa situation, the prime minister came out last year, by the way, and said that you know, two kids were killed from the MMR vaccine. They had a vaccine campaign last year. 2 kids were killed. They said that the nurses mixed the vaccines improperly. I don't believe that. I don't. I think that they threw them under the bus, and this is an excuse that they've used before when they've had, you know, kids dying from vaccines go public and go national. That's what they say. Oh, the nurses, oh, they're silly. They mixed the vaccines wrong, you know, and they threw these nurses under the buses, I believe, because after that happened, the prime minister said, not in that particular campaign, but he basically came out and said that his grandson was vaccine injured, and, you know, said that he'd never talk again. So he was suspicious himself, and he pulled the campaign, said that he didn't want them vaccinating. A few months later, UNICEF goes in, gives them the vaccination campaign that they don't want anyway. Now there's a measles outbreak. Now it's all over the news. Now, you know, it's the anti-vaxxers that's causing the measles outbreak, right? You go back in medical literature, they talk about how, you know, they diet and vitamin A and is a huge contributing factor to whether people, you know, get the measles or not, you know, or whether they can fight off the measles easily. You have somebody like Edwin Tamasese, who was a general healer, you know, using vitamin A and C to help people recover from the measles because they were vaccinated with the measles. And he gets arrested for, you know, giving people vitamins. And then they go and do another forced vaccination and revaccinate them again. It's insane, right? If you guys think the UN and the World Health Organization are benevolent, you're on the wrong channel, y'all. You're on the wrong channel, okay? So, geez. Oh, God. This book is selling like hotcakes on Amazon. Why is this book selling like hotcakes? Maybe because there's an autism epidemic, right? Right? And then people would say, oh, well, it's always been here. It's always been here. We're diagnosing better. We're just diagnosing the people better. Okay, well, where are all the 4-year-olds in diapers? Where are all the special autism days that they have? You guys are full of shit, okay? It's a flipping epidemic. And it can't be genetic because genetic and epidemic is an oxymoron together, okay? How can something be a genetic epidemic, okay? It's funny because Peter Hotez, who is a staunch pro-vaxxer and has a vested interest in vaccines because he's trying to create his own vaccine for tropical diseases that aren't even plaguing this country, but whatever. He was crying like a little bitch on Joe Rogan's show, talking about how this book is outselling his book. His book is called Vaccines Didn't Give My Daughter Autism. I was like, well, I read the book. Done, dude. I don't even have to read it. But this is a really good book talking about autism. But the secret is autism is just the tip of the iceberg. Vaccines Are Dangerous by Curtis Koss, really good book talking about why vaccines are dangerous. Dissolving Illusions is from Suzanne Humphreys. I talked about her earlier in the video. She has a lot of lectures on YouTube, educates other doctors on the dangers of vaccines, travels around the world. And she did this book with a computer scientist, and they basically took data from all the all the countries that took data about diseases, or of diseases, and cataloged them, and then they used the graphs in this book that the computer scientist made, and then she basically researched the history of the diseases and why they happen, and talks about a lot about sanitation and stuff like water treatment, right? We didn't have water treatment, you guys. Think about it. We didn't have incinerators. People shat in the streets. People horses are just taking poops in the streets all day, right? We didn't have anything to clean out our water. People were living in really bunched up situations and not taking baths, and they didn't have proper plumbing, and that all leads to disease. Proper nutrition, okay? Neil Miller's Critical Vaccine Studies, really great book. 400 important scientific papers summarized for parents and researchers. Basically, it's kind of laid out like this. And he summarizes, right? You can look up asthma or eczema or, aluminum and mercury and brain injuries and what else. And he summarizes the studies, and then you can go research the studies. So this is like a reference, guys, but it's really good. Fear of the Invisible by Janie Roberts. Janie Roberts, if you ever seen the movie Blood Diamond, she was the one that broke the story about blood diamonds in Africa. She's a world-renowned journalist. Later, after she did that story, her next story was investigating the labs that made vaccines. And I'm going to put an interview of her in the comments. It's maybe 15, 20 minutes. In that interview, she talks about how they have oncogenes. They found oncogenes in the vaccines. And basically, she was saying the way that they separate the viruses from the bacteria, that there's no way for them to strain out all the viruses from the like if, for instance, they're making a measles vaccine, and there are other viruses, a bacteria that gets in there. There's really no way for them to separate it. And they just ended up injecting them anyway. They found chicken leukemia. So some of the flu vaccines are grown on eggs, and there's leukemia in the chicken eggs. So you're making a vaccine with that, and you're injecting somebody, especially a child, with that on a cellular, molecular level. Do you think that might give them cancer? You think that might be a contributor to the rise in childhood cancers? You think that you can inject somebody with cancer and they not get cancer? I don't know. But this is a really good book. She wrote that. And I am a nerd. I'm nerded out on vaccines. So this is a really good book. It's like $100 book, y'all. I don't buy shoes. I buy books. That's my addiction, okay? Oh, my God. But I haven't actually even read this. I've just kind of thumbed through it and used this as a reference. But this is actually a textbook that a guy named Yehuda Schoenfeld, who's in Israel, and he's an autoimmune specialist, and his research has to do with Asia, adjuvants cause, adjuvants and them causing autoimmunity. And one of the things that's really interesting is that for them to study autoimmunity, they have to inject the mice with like adjuvants such as aluminum. There are other adjuvants like squalene and stuff. They have to inject the mice with these adjuvants to induce autoimmunity so they can study autoimmunity. So do you think that injecting humans with adjuvants can cause autoimmunity in humans? I don't know, you guys. I guess you have to do your own research. All right. So, like I said, those of you guys who've been sticking around, I appreciate it. You guys can subscribe if you are offended, and you just, you ain't strong enough. You ain't strong yet. What? No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding, but you know what I mean. You guys, like I said, no hard feelings. I'm not going to talk about vaccines all the time, but I'm probably talking about them a lot because I'm really passionate about, passionate about informing people, because I just think that people are severely, severely lied to and not given true informed consent. Because if people really knew that there's really no benefit and all risk, then they would not be vaccinating at all. They would not be, if they understood that, the amount of autoimmune diseases that vaccines cause, they would not be vaccinating at all. I do think that autoimmune diseases can be caused by other things, but I think vaccines are a trigger. Sorry, I'm trying not to hiccup. I think they're a trigger, and I think that there are other contributing causes. I think there are other contributing causes to autoimmune diseases, but I think vaccines is a trigger. So if you're vaccinated and you already start having autoimmune issues, you have other stuff in the environment like EMFs, you have pollution, you have glyphosate, you have GMO food, all these other chemicals that are also kind of adding to the problem. So I have kind of gotten into it with people. They're like, no, it's not the vaccines, it's the GMOs. I'm like, we're both right. I think you're right. We can be both right, okay? But for sure, vaccines are the one thing that's designed to manipulate your immune system. So why are we not questioning the thing that is made to manipulate your immune system when it comes to autoimmune diseases? Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God. What? Yeah, so that's it. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Peace and love. Bye-bye. Mwah.